Protests against police violence triggered by the death of George Floyd continued across the United States for the 12th straight day on Saturday. People in Portland, San Diego, Phoenix, Seattle, Miami, Philadelphia and other states all rallied in mostly peaceful demonstrations, taking a stand against the death of Floyd, an unarmed black man pinned by his neck to the street by a white officer. Thousands of peaceful demonstrators poured into the streets of Washington to protest against police brutality. Military vehicles and officers closed off much of downtown Washington to traffic ahead of the planned march.
I'm out here to fight for the liberation of black people, for my children and all the generations in the future.
Thousands of protesters marched along the length of San Francisco's iconic Golden Gate Bridge. Hundreds of protesters blocked an intersection in Los Angeles' Hollywood neighborhood, chanting slogans, carrying banners against police brutality and racism.
I think everyone who has a conscience would come out and support. This is all humankind. It affects all of us. It's a humanity problem. It's not a race, any race, it's all humankind.
Demonstrations continued in New York City, with thousands taking to the streets and parks to protest police brutality, as the city continued to enforce an 8 p.m. curfew that has created tensions between protesters and police. New York City instituted an 8 p.m. local curfew after protests for George Floyd turned violent earlier in the week, as demonstrators clashed with police and stores were looted. Police officers used tear gas, stun grenades and pepper spray to disperse protesters in Portland. Also, police officers were seen tackling protesters and holding them on the ground. Seattle police used flashbangs to disperse protesters, throwing umbrellas and objects following a large peaceful demonstration against racism and police brutality earlier in the day. Media reports said that a small group of protesters started throwing objects at the police when they were asked to move. With calls to end systemic racism and police brutality, the second memorial service for George Floyd was held on Saturday in a North Carolina town where he was born. Hundreds lined up at a church in Rayford to pay their respects during a public viewing, and a private service for the family was conducted later in the day.
I've seen what's going on in this country, and though my family has been saddened by the news, this is just an allergic reaction to an ongoing issue in the United States.
The 25th May killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis has triggered protests against racism and police brutality in cities and smaller communities nationwide, as well as demonstrations by supporters around the world.